watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Stone Shields. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about whether or not Duke Tobin might have found another hidden gem. Throughout Tobin's time here in Cincinnati, I think he's made some really, really quality draft picks. Has he missed on some guys as well? Absolutely. There's a guy that was drafted not in 2025, but actually in 2024 that might have a really big role for this Cincinnati Bengals team and could perhaps break out and prove to be an incredible draft pick. Cincinnati going to need some really big guys to step up on this football team. There is no doubt about it. So we're going to be talking about that particular player here on today's show. And just of note, doing a little solo producing here on today's show. So if you see me look down, whatever the case may be, just trying to do multiple things here at once as we progress through today's video. But before we get into that, if you're excited for Bengals training camp, show it by liking today's video for me right now. Obviously, end of June throughout July is kind of the only slow period in the NFL. Pretty much every other month has stuff going on, but this period does get a little bit slow, and I know we're all thinking about Bengals training camp. So if you're excited for that, show it by liking today's video for me right now. Going for over 400 likes here on today's show. I know we can do it. Help me out. Hit that thumbs up icon. All right, the player I was referring to is Cedric Johnson. Cedric Johnson, of course, is a 2024 sixth-round draft pick out of Ole Miss, and he didn't play a ton last year. In fact, I was kind of surprised that he didn't get more run out there on the football field for Cincinnati, but with all of the question marks at that edge rusher spot. Trey Hendrickson, of course, his situation doesn't look like it's going to get resolved anytime soon as far as those contract negotiations go between Hendrickson, his camp, and the Cincinnati Bengals, and obviously Shamar Stewart, your first-round pick here in 2025. As of filming this video, hopefully it changes by the time this video goes out, but as of filming this video here on Monday, he is still not signed, and obviously that is a massive issue, a guy that you picked early in the first round, and he hasn't practiced once with the football team. We've had several videos that have discussed that. Obviously, that is very frustrating, but it leads you to look at the guys behind those two in that room, and as I said, I was kind of surprised that Cedric Johnson didn't play more than what he played last season. Now, he did get some run. He was he played in 9 football games for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I thought the way he was running around out there on the football field that he looked really, really good. He also had a sack last year as well, and ultimately when they were having struggles rushing the passer, right, besides Trey Hendrickson, of course, who, of course, had 17.5 sacks, I thought they would perhaps lean on a guy or try to get Cedric Johnson into the lineup. They didn't do it a ton, but the fact that he still was able to get out there in 9 games does show, as a sixth-round rookie, that the coaching staff and his teammates around him did have a lot of belief, and that leads me to believe that he could potentially have a big year for Cincinnati and help them win football games here in 2025. Plenty more on Johnson to come, but do you think Cedric Johnson can help the Cincinnati Bengals win football games in 2025? Let me know what you think in the comment section of today's show. Type Y for yes or N for no. It is the pinned comment of today's video. Get down in the comments and sound off for us. Spend a little bit of time here talking about kind of his background and kind of his journey here to the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, he's not a rookie. He's going into his second year with Cincinnati. He's from Mobile, Alabama, went to Davidson High School. He was only a 3-star recruit when he was kind of coming through the recruiting ranks, right? 247 Sports. I think they probably do the best job with all the recruiting stuff. They had him as a 3-star recruit, so didn't have a ton of offers, still had a quality amount of offers, but he ended up going to Ole Miss and had a very productive career at Ole Miss. Of course, was a 6th-round pick by Cincinnati in 2024, appeared in a lot of football games for the Rebels. 46 games, had over 100 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 19 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Sacks is something Cincinnati certainly could use at that edge rusher spot, again, especially with the uncertainty around Trey Hendrickson. And even when he was out there, the pass rush for Cincinnati felt like it was Trey Hendrickson or nothing. Bengals obviously trying to pivot off that. I think in large part that's why you saw him pick Shamar Stewart. But with the question marks around him as well, you could be looking at a guy like Cedric Johnson who's really going to have an opportunity to step in and play some big-time meaningful downs for Cincinnati. These are some of his testing numbers when he was going through Pro Day before he was drafted. He's 6'3", 260 pounds, which, by the way, that's still what the team lists him at here at this point. His vertical was 38 inches. The broad jump was 10 feet, 2 inches, and was able to do 25 reps on the bench press as well, which is a lot. So I think that shows kind of the strength of Cedric Johnson, his ability to kind of shed blocks. and ultimately get to the quarterback. Look, the athletic upside is there. I don't think there really is a doubt when it comes to the athletic upside of Cedric Johnson. If you guys remember, he was wearing number 52 for Cincinnati last year. When he would come out on the field, I would be like, oh, who is that? That guy looks really athletic. And he seemingly would always be, in there stirring up trouble along the defensive line. Obviously, the Bengals could use another game wrecker there, and I think he has the traits that he needs to perhaps be that guy. Again, late-round pick for Cincinnati a couple of years ago, but he's a guy that might see his number get called upon. We'll see if he can execute when the time comes. We'll continue with more on Johnson here in a second, but do want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that these Bengals USA t-shirts are out. They are on sale now. Obviously, July 4th is right around the corner here as we are in the end of the month of June. Show your support for the USA and your support for the Cincinnati Bengals for checking out some of these shirts over there at Fanatics. Chatsports.com/Bengals July 4th/. We'll put that link in the comments section and the description of today's show. Here's what Paul Dehner Jr. had to say about Cedric Johnson. I think he had some noteworthy takeaways. Paul, of course, covering the Cincinnati Bengals for The Athletic. He said this: further under the radar is 2024 sixth-round pick Cedric Johnson. He found himself in regular rotations and has received praise from different corners of the building throughout the offseason program. He's the only edge who fits the speed rusher profile at 6'3", 260 pounds, and could find a sub-package role because of it. And I think that really is great stuff there from Paul Dehner Jr. Now, to be clear, is he going to be a guy that's out there on every down? Absolutely not, right? But could he be a guy, like Paul alluded to, that could carve out a little sub-package for himself? I think absolutely that could be the case for Cedric Johnson. Again, Bengals just need guys to get to the quarterback. That has been a struggle for this football team, and we'll talk about the depth chart here in a second. But as you take a look at that thing, it kind of gets pretty thin pretty quickly when you get behind Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart, and somebody in that room is going to have to step up, whether it be, a UDFA perhaps, or a guy like Cedric Johnson, a later round pick that, as Paul mentioned, is really flying under the radar here at this point for Cincinnati. All right, so we'll get to the depth chart here in a second. But rank the Bengals defensive ends. Let me know. I want a full ranking system, 1, 2, however many guys are in the room. Find out here in a second. Not exactly sure off the top of my head. But regardless, we all know Trey Hendrickson's one. But beyond that, I'm interested in how do you rank those guys? Where do you put Myles Murphy? Where do you put Joseph Ossai? Where do you put Shamar Stewart? Where do you put a guy like Cedric Johnson as well? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Really curious to know what you guys think. All right, so here's the depth chart. Hendrickson, Ossai, Stewart are kind of your three guys. But it kind of seems like at this point of the offseason that the Bengals are going to give Myles Murphy kind of the benefit of the doubt here. I think they're going to give him more opportunity over a guy like Ossai. If you remember last year, Joseph Ossai actually beat out Myles Murphy for playing time and was seeing more playing time down the stretch. And then after that, you got Cam Sample, who I really like a lot. I've talked about him a lot. He, of course, missed last season with that torn Achilles. But hopefully he can come back and look like the guy that he was before that injury, and I think that would boost this room as well. But the question for me is, can Cedric Johnson push Joseph Ossai? Look, I've been pretty hard on Joseph Ossai on this show. I thought, it was the best decision for the organization to move off him, but they gave him a one-year prove-it deal. Hopefully it all works out. Hopefully he balls out and can get a big contract after that. Did have, I believe, 7.5 sacks. But can somebody push him? Can Cedric Johnson be a guy that could push Joseph Ossai and take over more of those reps? Is he as big of a guy as him? No. Is he as effective in the run game? Probably not. But if he can get to the quarterback, that will get him more playing time. And I do want to be very clear here. He's going to make the football team, right? He made the team last year. Obviously, pretty much every draft pick is going to make the team. But with the Bengals' issues there at that edge spot, he's going to make the team once again this year. He is going to have an opportunity. It's up to himself and the coaching staff, Jerry Montgomery along the defensive line, and, of course, Al Golden, the new defensive coordinator, calling the shots to really get the most out of him. But I'm really excited for Cedric Johnson. I was excited when the Bengals picked him. I was excited with what I saw in the 9 games in which he played last season. And I really do think he could be a hidden gem here for Duke Tobin. And if he goes out and bursts on the scene, that can clean up a lot of your issues at that edge rusher spot very quickly as well. Make sure you guys hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. It's youtube.com/Bengals TV. We'll have more videos for you guys all off season long and all training camp long as well, as that is right around the corner here at this point. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button for me right now.